G'day, you're listening to Travis, and let's go mate. 2019 PC review of Diablo 3 from Blizzard Studios. This review will try to provide some insight as to whether or not it is worth buying Diablo 3 today. My shortcut opinion is yes. Now more than ever is a great time to jump into Diablo 3 and into this franchise. And in this video, I explore a bit of what makes Diablo 3 fun and why is a good buy today. A somewhat quick history of Diablo 3 in its initial release. Diablo 3 was announced on June 28, 2008. This was 8 years after the release of Diablo 2 and 7 years after the Lord of Destruction expansion, which was arguably one of the biggest patches when it came to Diablo 2. They introduced a whole lot of systems, made the game a lot better. Diablo 3 has been a highly anticipated sequel for fans, and they've been clamoring for it for a long time since Diablo 2. I mean, 8 years is a long time to wait just for the announcement of Diablo 3. When it was initially announced, it was met with excitement, and there was some apprehension. A lot of the core systems from Diablo 2 had either been changed, reworked, or altogether removed. Fans were conflicted between the hype of a new Diablo title and the fear that it won't be the Diablo experience they've been expecting. Panels and talks at BlizzCon went into details about their thoughts and ideas as to where they were going to take the Diablo 3 franchise, and from what they showed off and what they discussed, it did look to appease some of the people's fears. Showing off their itemization systems, skills, options, and modifiers, first gameplay videos allowed people to warm up to the idea of Diablo 3. Then, the most unexpected part of Diablo 3 announcement was the real money auction house. This was not what people were expecting to hear, and as more and more details emerged, people's fear began to set in. Slowly people realized the real money auction house was going to impact their progression. With all this info coming from the announcement, people had slim hope that between the announcement and the expected release date, perhaps some things could be reworked with the real money auction house. So comes the release date, May 15, 2012, and the 1.0 version of Diablo 3 is released into the wild. In some ways this was a true Diablo experience, with superb combat, amazing cinematics, and unforgiving enemies. The game was hard, and itemization was bad, and was not where people wanted it to be. Drops appeared to have been greatly reduced so that it encouraged people to look at the auction house if they were seeking power for their characters. Aside from general gameplay, a lot of fans were very disappointed where they took the story of the Diablo franchise as well. Killing off Deckard Cain, who was one of the most notable characters within Diablo, left a sour taste in many people's mouths. They did not want to see this beloved character just die off for what was a kind of pointless reason. On top of what many described as a convoluted plot that made very little sense the more you dug into it, and has a hard time standing up to close scrutiny. There were enemies who would talk to you while you're playing the game. They would make these cliche, boring, and sad monologues that didn't live up to their own reputations, and they would often just die very later, without much of a hassle. Fans were not pleased, to say the least. So from the release, updates flowed in and were changing some aspects of gameplay, skill changes, and adding the infamous Paragon system. And now it should be noted that the original Paragon system that was released was enjoyed by most users, as it did have a finite progression level to it. You could only hit a certain point and you got a set amount of power. This was fine by most people's standard. It did add another layer of progression for people who wanted to grind for that, who missed the level 99 grind from Diablo 2. With most of the updates coming in the form of hot fixes and number changes, fans' interest was waning within the franchise. There wasn't much core gameplay changes which were changing how you played the game, just sort of changing the numbers that appeared when you did the same things over and over. A few more patches came through, but nothing bucked the core gameplay loop or satisfying people's annoyance of the auction house reliance on the in-game economy. A year and a bit later came the announcement many wanted to hear. Shortly after the release, the real money auction house was announced to be closed on the 18th of March 2014. This was great news for a lot of players that were very happy to hear this, and they could not wait for this to be gone. When the auction house was released, it was met with a lot of negative critical reception, and it really did drive players away. Together with the poor drop rate and itemization design, this led people to turn to the auction house to progress with the gear, which in turn created a pay-to-win element. This obviously was not seen as a positive element to the game, and aside from the initial release not squaring up with people's perception to begin with, the desires of this pay-to-win component further drove the player base away. There were a lot of core elements that worked well within Diablo 3, but people often felt frustrated with the drop rates on items in all aspects. In particular, people would often play either a dexterity class, a strength class, or an intelligence class, but the drops they were getting could not be used by their class. Either the characters couldn't use a type of weapon or armor that dropped, or even if it did drop for their type of class, it rolled with the main stat. So you might play a wizard, obviously your main stat is intelligence, you get a wand, for some reason it has strength on it. This was a common and frustrating experience. Thankfully, there was a fix on the horizon. Prior to the patch removing the auction house, the biggest patch was released. This was patch 2.0.1. This was introducing a fundamental change to just about everything to the game. It is safe to say that if you only played Diablo 3 prior to this patch, the game fundamentally changes many aspects of the core gameplay loop, and the gameplay is completely different. Difficulty, crafting, in-game events, itemization, monsters, paragon, social, skills, and passives were all changed in a large, meaningful way. This monumental patch, and it cannot be understated just how comprehensive the patch was and how it breathed new life into playing Diablo 3, was very much needed. Introducing Loot 2.0, released on 25th of February 2014. This patch made a lot of obvious fixes, which sounds more like common sense in hindsight. This ensured items that dropped would 99% of the time be rolled for their character's main stats. No more ones with strength. There are hundreds of changes that I could not possibly cover every change that occurred within this patch, but know that it truly represents a Diablo 3 2.0 version. On the heels of this patch was the Reaper of Souls expansion pack, which was released on the 25th of March 2014, which further added more features and a new character class to Crusader and even more gameplay elements. Now, with all that said, we've quickly caught up as to where we're at for the most part, with the history explained of where Diablo 3 released at and where Diablo 3 2.0 brought us up to, and now in the present where we are. We have to ask ourselves, why should we even play Diablo 3 in 2019? There are so many amazing ARPGs on the marketplace right now. You have Path of Exile and Grim Dawn, just to name two of the more popular ones. We look towards the future Diablo to provide a reason to play the present Diablo. And how does this matter? Blizzard has announced Diablo 4. Why does Blizzard announcing Diablo 4 affect Diablo 3? Well, it's simple business. It isn't out of the goodness of their hearts, but through PR and marketing that this makes the best time to play Diablo 3. It is in Blizzard's best interest to get people reinvested in the Diablo 3 universe, and they have made multiple announcements and blue posts regarding the future of Diablo 3 and new content being created. Diablo 3 now has a more dedicated content team, new season content being announced, new armor sets coming in, and new and existing items being updated. And this, in my opinion, is only the start. The more people Blizzard can get hyped on Diablo 3 will inevitably get hyped for Diablo 4. So expect more fresh content, more patches, more developer communication, and a stronger community. It should be known that Diablo 3 is available on PC, Xbox, PlayStation, and even the Nintendo Switch. A unique fact is that on the Nintendo Switch, it actually has an offline mode, which no other platform offers. So definitely something to think about if you like to play games either at work, on the bus, on the train, or just when you're out and about and you're not actively connected to the internet connection. Right now, the holiday season is coming up. You'll most likely definitely see Diablo 3 on sale, so it's definitely also a perfect time to pick it up. I must be clear though that some places still sell the original Diablo 3. This is just the core game. I strongly advise that if you're looking to buy Diablo 3 or get into it now, there's only two versions you should be looking at. This is the internal collection, which comes with the other new characters, which is the Necromancer, or if you buy the Battle Chest version, this is the Diablo 3 and the Reaper of Souls patch, but just no Necromancer. I think the price difference is only $10, that's Australian, so I imagine on American it's maybe $5 or $7.50, so it's not a bad deal just to go for the Eternal Collection. And that basically just sums up why Diablo 3 is a great time to jump in right now. There's lots of gameplay videos you can go out there and have a check more in depth. There's lots of streams you can watch, see if the game is really for you. If you have already found this video, it means you're probably looking at Diablo 3 anyway, so you got an idea how it plays. I just wanted to offer just a reason as to why it's a good time to jump in. People look at the game and how old it is and they think, 2014 release dates, when it actually got good, do I want to jump in now 5 years later and invest my time and money? I say yes again. soon. Cheers for watching me ramble about Diablo 3. Definitely check out some of the biggest streamers on Diablo 3, such as, there's Lord Fluffy, there's Bloodshed, there's Riker, there's P-Child, many of these guys, but these guys are really pushing Diablo 3 content. They're always super well informed. These are some of the guys that are either crafting new builds or really testing out the builds that other people try to theory craft themselves and just proving if they're even good. But that's about it. Feel free to comment down below. I most likely got a lot of things wrong or mixed up, and if you're feeling good, subscribe. Otherwise, cheers mate, Travis out.